Before this story begins, pause for 1 second. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who still believes kindness matters. Now answer me honestly. Have you ever been treated like you were nothing? Just because of how you looked? While carrying a truth powerful enough to silence everyone who judged you? If yes, stay with me. Because this story is not about money. It's about how kindness exposes power. And arrogance destroys itself. The party hall was already alive. Soft music floated through the air. Crystal glasses clinked gently. Laughter echoed, confident, careless, loud. This wasn't an ordinary celebration. It was a gathering of people who believed they mattered more than others. Designer suits wrapped around egos. Expensive gowns flowed beside practiced smiles. Every conversation carried one unspoken message. I belong here. Then, she walked in. For exactly 2 seconds, everything slowed. Not because she was important. Because she didn't fit. She stood near the entrance, holding a worn canvas bag close to her side. Her dress was simple. Clean. Modest. No jewelry. No shine. No attempt to impress. Just calm eyes. Eyes that observed quietly. Eyes that had learned to stay silent, not out of weakness, but out of patience. Someone laughed. Soft. Controlled. Cruel. Did someone invite staff into the main hall? A man whispered, swirling his drink. Another voice followed, louder this time. Maybe she's lost. A woman in a glittering gown looked her up and down, lips curling. This is a private event, she said. Not everyone gets access. The girl didn't respond. She took a step forward. That was enough. A man lounging comfortably on a velvet sofa stretched his leg out, deliberately blocking her path. Well, he said loudly, smirking. If you're here to serve, you're already late. Start working. Laughter spread across the hall. Not wild laughter. The kind that feels safe when you believe you're untouchable. The girl stumbled slightly, but didn't fall. She steadied herself. Didn't apologize. Didn't explain. She quietly stepped around his leg. That silence irritated them more than any reply could have. One woman shook her head dramatically. This is embarrassing. Tonight is about legacy, not charity. Another added. Security should really be more careful. The girl reached the far corner of the hall. The smallest table. No centerpiece. No attention. She sat down. No shaking hands. No tears. No anger on her face. Just stillness. And that confused them. Because people like her were supposed to look grateful. Small. Ashamed. She didn't. A man glanced at his watch. When does the main announcement start? We didn't come here to babysit. Right then. The music stopped. The lights dimmed slightly. The main doors opened. And the entire hall changed. A man entered. Silver hair. Sharp eyes. Quiet authority. The attorney. The conversations died instantly. Postures straightened. Glasses were lowered. Smiles were adjusted. This man mattered. But instead of walking to the stage, he walked straight past the VIP tables. Straight past the powerful families. Straight past the people who believed they owned the room. He stopped beside her. The girl at the forgotten table. Good evening, he said gently. I'm glad you made it. The room froze. A man stood abruptly. Excuse me, he snapped. There must be a mistake. This event is. The attorney raised one finger. Silence fell immediately. He turned back to the girl. Did you bring what I asked for? He asked. She nodded. reached into her canvas bag, pulled out a neatly organized folder. The sound of paper sliding echoed louder than the music ever had. Whispers erupted. Who is she? Why does she have documents? What's going on? The attorney glanced at the folder, then nodded. Excellent, he said quietly. You're always prepared. Always? The man who had blocked her path earlier shifted uncomfortably. This is ridiculous, he said. Who exactly is she? The attorney finally turned to face the hall. His voice was calm, but dangerous. She is, he said slowly, someone you never thought was worth knowing. A scoff came from the crowd. Oh please. We know exactly who she is. The girl remained silent. The attorney shook his head slightly. No, he said. You knew how she dressed. You knew where she sat. You knew how to ignore her. He placed the folder on a glass table. But you never knew her value. The air grew heavy. The attorney stepped onto the stage. Before tonight's announcement, he said, there's something you all need to understand. The hall was silent now. This celebration was also a test. A nervous laugh broke the tension. A test? For character. Silence. 4 months, the attorney continued. This hall, these gatherings, these interactions were observed. A ripple of unease spread. Especially moments like the one we witnessed tonight. The man swallowed hard. The attorney turned toward the girl. Thank you, he said quietly. For showing grace when others showed cruelty. Her fingers tightened slightly. The first sign of emotion all evening. The attorney faced the guests again. Let me ask you something, he said. If respect costs nothing, why did so many of you refuse to give it? No one answered. Fear replaced confidence. And the girl? She lifted her eyes. For the first time. She didn't look invisible. She looked ready. Because what they didn't know yet was that this party was never meant to celebrate them. And the truth hiding inside that canvas bag was about to turn their world upside down. The room stayed quiet. Not the comfortable kind of silence. The dangerous kind. The kind that makes people aware of every breath they take, every thought they wish they could hide. The girl sat still at the far table, her canvas bag resting against her chair. Her posture hadn't changed. Her expression hadn't either. But something in the air had. The laughter was gone. The confidence too. People shifted in their seats now, glancing at one another, unsure of what rules still applied. The same men who had spoken loudly moments ago now lowered their voices. The same women who had judged her appearance suddenly avoided her eyes. Because attention had shifted. And attention is power. The attorney let the silence stretch longer than necessary. He knew what silence did to people like this. It made them uncomfortable. Finally, a man near the center table cleared his throat. Let's not waste time, he said, trying to sound composed. We're here for an announcement. The attorney looked at him calmly. You're right, he replied. But first, context matters. A woman frowned. What context? The attorney didn't answer her immediately. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pressed a small remote. The lights dimmed further. A massive screen behind the stage came to life. A low murmur rippled through the hall. What is this? Someone whispered. The first video played. It was the same party hall. Same lighting. Same tables. But the date in the corner showed months earlier. The girl appeared on screen, standing quietly near the wall, holding a small notebook. She wasn't part of any conversation. She wasn't acknowledged. A man waved his hand dismissively at her. Not now, his recorded voice echoed. Go stand somewhere else. The clip switched. Another evening. Another gathering. A woman laughed as she passed by her. Honestly, she said, loud enough for others to hear. They'll let anyone in these days. The girl said nothing. The video changed again. She was kneeling near a table, carefully picking up spilled glasses while someone complained about how slow she was. Gasps spread across the room. A few people recognized themselves on the screen. And suddenly, the past didn't feel so distant. The attorney paused the video. These recordings, he said calmly, span 6 months. 6 months. The words settled heavily. A woman stood abruptly. This is inappropriate, she snapped. You can't show this without our permission. The attorney turned to her. You signed consent forms, he said evenly. Every one of you did. Buried in documents you never bothered to read. She sat back down slowly. The video resumed. This time, the scene changed completely. The hall was empty. Late at night. Only a few lights were on. The girl sat alone at a small table near the back. Her canvas bag was open. She pulled out books. Not menus. Not cleaning supplies. Books. Thick ones. Financial reports. Legal documents. Accounting manuals. The room leaned forward instinctively. On screen, she highlighted pages. Took notes. Rechecked numbers. Cross-referenced data. Night after night. Date after date. She wasn't wandering, the attorney said quietly. She was studying. A man shook his head in disbelief. That's impossible. The attorney didn't look at him. She noticed things none of you did, he continued. Because you were too busy believing she didn't matter. The screen changed again. Spreadsheets appeared. Highlighted discrepancies. Red circles around missing amounts. She identified irregular transfers, the attorney said. Flagged losses before they happened. Protected accounts you assumed were safe. A man leaned forward, eyes wide. Those numbers, they were confidential. They were accessible, the attorney replied. To anyone who bothered to look. The screen went dark. The lights slowly returned. No one spoke. The girl remained seated, her hands folded calmly in her lap. The attorney turned toward her. What did he teach you first? He asked gently. All eyes shifted to her again. For a moment, it seemed like she might stay silent. Then she spoke. He taught me to listen, she said softly. And to remember how people behave when they think they're important. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't need to. The words landed with precision. The attorney nodded. He believed, he said. That kindness reveals more than confidence ever could. A man scoffed weakly. So this is a lecture now? The attorney looked at him. No, he said. This is accountability. He walked slowly across the stage. 4 months, he continued. Each of you had opportunities. He stopped. To be decent. Another step. To be respectful. Another. To be human. He faced the crowd. You failed. A woman crossed her arms defensively. She could have spoken up. The girl lifted her eyes. I did, she said quietly. The room stilled. I spoke with my work, she continued. With my silence. With my patience. She stood slowly. I watched how you treated people who couldn't benefit you, she said. And I learned exactly who I could trust. The man who had tripped her earlier couldn't meet her gaze. The attorney returned to the center. There was a final condition, he said. Every breath paused. The person whose legacy this celebration honors, he continued, did not want wealth passed to arrogance. Murmurs rose. That's absurd. We're family. We built this. The attorney shook his head. You inherited money, he said quietly. You didn't inherit values. The words cut deeper than anger ever could. He reached into the folder. And the individual who decides what happens next, he said slowly, is not me. A woman's voice cracked. Then who? The attorney turned toward the girl. She is. Shock erupted. This is manipulation. This is insane. Security shifted subtly near the doors. The girl stood. I didn't plan this, she said calmly. I didn't ask for power. She looked around the hall. I only paid attention. Her gaze met theirs, one by one. And today, she said, I decide who deserves trust. The room fell silent again. Because for the first time, they understood something terrifying. The girl they had ignored had been watching everything. And whatever decision came next would not be based on blood, or wealth, or status. It would be based on how they treated someone they thought didn't matter. And that realization was far more frightening than losing money. The silence stretched longer than anyone expected. Not because no one had anything to say, but because everyone was afraid of saying the wrong thing. The girl stood near the edge of the stage now, her presence calm, controlled, unshaken. The canvas bag still hung from her shoulder, worn and ordinary, like a quiet reminder that nothing about her power had come from appearances. The attorney stepped slightly back, deliberately giving her space. The room understood the signal. This was no longer his moment. It was hers. A man near the front finally spoke, his voice tight. You can't seriously expect us to accept this, he said. We've been part of this legacy for decades. The girl turned her eyes toward him slowly. I know, she replied softly. I've read the records. That single sentence landed harder than any accusation. The man stiffened. She took a step forward. Not aggressively. Confidently. For months, she continued, I listened to stories about loyalty, sacrifice, and family. She paused. Then I watched how easily those words disappeared when no one important was watching. A woman shook her head, tears forming. You don't understand the pressure we're under, she said. We had to protect what was ours. The girl met her gaze. I do understand, she replied gently. That's why I protected it for you when you didn't. The woman fell silent. The girl moved closer to the center of the room. I didn't measure you by how you spoke to me, she said. I measured you by how you treated people who could do nothing for you. Her eyes swept across the hall. The servers. The assistants. The volunteers. A pause. The invisible. The word echoed. A man clenched his jaw. You stayed quiet all this time, he said bitterly. Why not reveal yourself earlier? The girl answered without hesitation. Because kindness doesn't need an audience, she said. And truth doesn't rush. The attorney nodded slightly. She continued. The person whose legacy we're discussing believed something deeply, she said. That power should be earned in silence, and revealed only when necessary. Her hand brushed against the canvas bag. He wanted to know who you were, she said. Not when you were winning, but when you thought you were superior. A man laughed nervously. So this is punishment? She shook her head. No, she said. This is consequence. She reached for the folder the attorney had placed earlier. Opened it. Inside were several envelopes. She lifted the first one. This, she said, contains decisions already made. The room leaned forward. Some of you, she continued, will keep your positions. Relief flickered briefly. Some of you will lose them. Fear followed immediately. But none of you, she added, will be humiliated. A man scoffed. After everything, you're showing mercy? She looked at him steadily. Mercy is not weakness, she said. It's discipline. She opened the first envelope. Names were read. A few people exhaled. Others went pale. Then she opened another. And this, she said, is non-negotiable. She lifted her eyes. Every person who mocked, dismissed, or dehumanized someone in this room will complete community service. Groans followed. At the same centers where kindness is practiced without reward, she continued. Where respect is given freely. She paused. You will learn. The man who had tripped her earlier stood suddenly. You're enjoying this, he accused. The room froze. The girl looked at him, not with anger, not with pride. With sadness. No, she said quietly. I wish I didn't have to do this. That response broke something in the room. Because it was honest. She closed the folder gently. I didn't come here to take anything from you, she said. I came to return something you forgot. She stepped forward once more. Humanity. The attorney cleared his throat softly. All changes will take effect immediately, he announced. Access levels have already been updated. Phones buzzed. Accounts locked. Reality hit. The girl turned toward the exit. Then stopped. One last thing, she said. Everyone looked up. When you leave tonight, she continued. Don't remember me as the girl you underestimated. She turned back slowly. Remember me as the reason you'll never do it again. Security opened the doors. People exited quietly. No arguments. No pride left to defend. The hall emptied. The chandeliers still glowed. The music never returned. Only she and the attorney remained. You handled that with grace, he said sincerely. She exhaled for the first time. My mother taught me, she replied. She said power doesn't change who you are, it reveals it. He smiled. Outside, dawn began to creep through the tall windows. A new day. She picked up her canvas bag. Still worn. Still simple. As she walked toward the door, she paused. Make sure their first day starts early, she said calmly. How early? The attorney asked. She smiled, soft, knowing. Early enough to understand what mornings feel like. When no one thinks you matter. He nodded. She stepped out. The doors closed behind her. And for the first time, that hall understood the truth. Kindness isn't quiet because it's weak. It's quiet because it's powerful. And that night, respect didn't just change hands. It changed hearts.